Lately, I've been having some suspicions about my wife's fidelity, but I'm in a tricky situation because I don't have any concrete proof to back up my gut feeling. I'm hesitant to confront her or even bring up the subject for fear of causing unnecessary drama or giving her the chance to cover her tracks if she is indeed guilty. It's a tough call, and I don't know what my next move should be. Lately, I've been getting a strange feeling that something isn't right with my wife. It's just been small things that don't add up. About 4 months ago, she started hitting the gym and paying more attention to her appearance. Don't get me wrong, she's always been gorgeous, but she never cared much for makeup or doing her hair. Now she's always dressed to the nines. Another thing that's been bothering me is how protective she is of her phone. It's not unusual for us to go through each other's phones, but now hers is glued to her side. If I need to use it for something innocent, like taking a picture, she tells me to use my own phone. On top of that, she's been working late and going out of town more often for her job. Something just doesn't feel right. For the past 4 months, my wife hasn't shown any interest in being close with me. She only gives me quick, meaningless kisses. I've tried to initiate physical contact with her a handful of times, but she's turned me down a few times, and when she did give in, she just lay there, unresponsive. It's left me feeling worse than if she'd outright rejected me. I tried bringing up the lack of closeness before, and she blamed it on being tired from being a mom, work, and lifting weights. She promised to try harder and even kiss me later that night, but nothing has changed since then. I've been racking my brain over what's been going on with my wife lately. Could it be a midlife crisis? Or maybe something else? It's hard to put my finger on it, but there is this guy at her workplace that's been on my radar. She used to talk about him all the time, but suddenly stopped a few months back. Despite this, I know they still work closely together. Apparently he's married with kids and has been confiding in my wife about his own marital issues. I've briefly met him a few times, but he didn't seem interested in getting to know me. It's got me thinking that he could be trouble. Hate to admit it, but I have been comparing myself to this guy at my wife's work. He's not as good looking as me and definitely not in the same physical shape as I am. Not to brag, but it's the truth. I'm big and strong, while he's average and a little overweight. But he dresses sharply, is outgoing, and enjoys a drink, which my wife has mentioned a few times that she wishes I would do more often. He has a master's degree, while I only graduated from high school. And to top it off, he makes more money than I do. As a fighter trainer, my earnings are humble, but my passion for the job is priceless. This other guy, on the other hand, is rich and enjoys parading his wealth around. I don't like to compare myself to others, but in this case, the differences between us are stark. The thing that's been eating at me is my wife's recent trip to a tropical resort for work. Initially, I was under the impression that there would be a large group of co-workers attending, but it turns out it was just her, the flashy guy, and the CEO. The CEO is too old to be a threat, but the other guy is a different story. My gut tells me that something happened between them during that week-long trip, and it's driving me insane not knowing for sure. My inner detective tells me that something is off in my marriage, but I don't want to jump to conclusions and make things worse by confronting her. Our marriage has had its share of bumps in the road, but overall, it's been pretty decent. Nothing major has happened to make me doubt her loyalty. However, my wife and I have different personalities. I'm not the most social person, and I don't earn a lot of money, which has been a source of frustration for her. She thinks I should be doing more with my life and making more money. I don't want to paint my wife as a gold digger, but I know she values financial stability. She thinks I have the potential to pursue other careers, but my passion lies in fighting and training fighters. It's what I've known my whole life. I could also consider becoming a personal trainer, but none of these paths lead to big bucks. Apart from this, she seems content in our marriage. However, I can't shake off this feeling that something is off, especially with her behavior towards me and this flashy guy at work. One of my buddies suggested I play the spy and gather evidence to confirm my suspicions, but I don't feel comfortable violating my wife's privacy. If she is cheating, I don't think I could ever forgive her, but I hope my hunch is wrong. Lately, the thought of infidelity has been creeping into my mind, and I can't shake it off. The scariest part is that we have 2 kids, and the thought of losing them terrifies me. I'm heavily invested in their lives, and the thought of only seeing them half the time breaks my heart. Any suggestions on how to approach this situation would be appreciated. Update. The latest update is that I managed to obtain the login details for our cell phone account. My wife uses her phone extensively for work, and at first, nothing seemed amiss when I checked it. But when I began to sort the numbers and times, I found a large number of texts being sent to a single number, often late at night, a few hours after we went to bed. I'm determined to find out who this number belongs to and will somehow get access to my wife's phone to see whose name it is saved under. When I came across this information, my emotions started to get the better of me, and I began to feel angry. I tried to convince myself that it was just a mistake or some friend of hers. But last night, when I tried to get close with her, I was turned down once again. She apologized and said that she was too tired and had a headache. I told her that I felt like we weren't connecting well, and she apologized and said she would do better. But she had said that before, without any follow-through. I didn't want to push the matter any further, so I just said goodnight and went to bed. This morning, she casually mentioned that she was thinking of taking a trip to Vegas with some college girlfriends. She doesn't gamble, but it still struck me as odd. I asked her who she would be going with, and she named a few girls I had never met. Maybe it's all just a coincidence, but I can't shake this feeling that something is off. Update. You can read the original post for the background. To recap, I have been having some serious suspicions that my wife might be having an affair. I finally decided to do some snooping, and boy, did I find something interesting. After looking at the detailed cell phone records online, I noticed that there were countless texts sent to one particular number in the middle of the night. Hundreds of them. I decided to take a chance and call the number from a payphone, and it went straight to one of her coworkers, the very same one that I had my suspicions about. I had a sneaky suspicion that this guy could be trouble. But wait, it gets even worse. I managed to get my hands on her phone while she was in the shower, and guess what? The entire text conversation with this guy had been deleted. And to make matters even more incriminating, the number that I had called earlier was saved in her phone under a female name. That's right, she was trying to be sneaky about it. Now, my mind is racing with worries about all those out-of-town trips she took where this guy was with her. Something is definitely not right here, and I am starting to fear the worst. After discovering the evidence of my wife's potential infidelity, I had to leave the house to clear my head. Despite my best efforts, I'm not sure what to do next. If I confront her now, she may come up with some excuse or lie. Should I wait and gather more evidence before I approach her? Or should I come clean immediately? I am seething with anger, and the thought of the other guy makes me want to lash out. But I know that won't solve anything. I fear that if I do confront her, she may only admit to minor flirtations, leaving me without enough proof of the bigger picture. I could really use some advice on how to proceed. I lay in wait like a lion stalking its prey. I had a plan, a sneaky plan. I pretended to be asleep, biding my time. After everyone was in bed and the house was silent, I kept one eye open, waiting for her to make a move. And sure enough, the clock struck 12, and my wife got out of bed and slinked into another room, quietly closing the door behind her. I waited a few minutes before getting up and slowly walking towards her. I caught her red-handed mid-text and stood over her before she could react. Her eyes widened in shock as she tried to hide her phone, but it was too late. I demanded to know who she was texting at this ungodly hour. She stammered and stuttered, trying to come up with a plausible excuse, but I wasn't buying it. She said it was just a girlfriend, but I knew there was more to it than that. I had her cornered, and she knew it. I couldn't believe what I had just done. My plan was risky, but it worked. I started kissing her and asked if she wanted to fool around, just as I expected. She said she couldn't. I laughed and playfully teased her, saying that she must be more into the girlfriend that she was texting than me. Then I started to tickle her, and we playfully wrestled. I managed to get the phone from her, and I could see the panic in her eyes. She tried to get it back, but I held it in the air, like I was playing keep away. I laughed and acted like I was having fun the entire time, telling her that I was going to call this girlfriend and ask if she was into my wife. As my wife pleaded for me not to call her friend, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. I walked away, pretending to end the conversation, while secretly pulling up the text messages on her phone. One stood out to me. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." My heart pounded as I hit the call button, waiting for an answer. Finally, a man's voice came through the speaker. I hung up, not knowing what to say. I turned to my wife and started reading through the messages aloud. I could see the fear in her eyes as I asked if the recipient was a guy or her friend. She stayed silent. I continued reading, demanding an explanation for the late-night texts to this guy. She stuttered, saying she didn't know. I pressed on, asking if there was anything she needed to tell me. She couldn't speak, and that's when I dropped the bomb. "I know everything," I said calmly. "I know when you wake up to text him, and I know who he is." Tears streamed down her face as she apologized, but I remained composed. I gave her a stern warning that the forthcoming moments were crucial and urged her to come clean. My wife finally confessed that she'd been flirting with her coworker, who was also dealing with marital troubles, and it spiraled into something more than just casual chit-chat. She insisted that they never did anything physical, but I couldn't help but wonder if she was telling the whole truth. I gave her an ultimatum that she needed to come clean and tell me everything or leave. She cried and apologized, admitting that she had been flirting with her coworker, who was also having marital issues. But I was skeptical that she was telling me the whole truth. I told her that we would discuss things later and that she needed to pack a bag and leave for her mom's house. As she was leaving, she asked if I was going to leave her. I didn't give her a direct answer and said we would talk later. However, she kept blowing up my phone, so I turned it off to get some space. I decided to look for a marriage counselor to make an appointment, but I didn't want my wife to suspect that I had given up on the relationship, so I pretended that I wanted to work things out for a while, until I had an opportunity to discuss my real intentions with the counselor. Last night's confrontation with my wife wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment decision. I had a plan. When I was playfully wrestling with her and tickling her, I had my phone recording the entire thing, just in case she tried to falsely accuse me of something later. I checked with a friend to make sure it was legal in our state, and he confirmed it was. I don't think she would do that, but with the way things are going, I can't be too careful. I'm a big guy, 6'4" and 240 pounds of muscle. I used to be a fighter, and now I train fighters. So if there's any false accusation of offense, I know that the odds are stacked against me. I could get arrested and lose everything, including my kids. That's why I plan to keep recording everything from here on out. Just as an insurance policy, my world has been shattered into a million pieces. My family, my everything, has been destroyed. I'll miss out on 50% of my children's childhood. Even though I had a hunch something was up, the reality of it all still blindsided me. The worst part? This is just the beginning of the pain. I want to confront the other guy, but I know I need to hold back. I heard through the grapevine that he found me terrifying when he first laid eyes on me, so I'd like to give him a good scare. And to top it all off, in one of the texts my wife and him shared, he referred to me as the animal after she made a jab at my intelligence. I may not have a college degree or make much money, but I'm not stupid. I love learning and reading books on all sorts of topics, but in this moment, I'm feeling anything but smart. I'm not sure what kind of advice I need right now, but I'll update as things go on. For now, I'm just trying to make sense of this devastation. Update. I'm grateful for the tremendous support I have received during this trying time. I've been so overwhelmed that I couldn't find a moment to respond to all of the advice and kind words that were offered. As for an update, my buddy who's an attorney was able to connect me with a family law specialist. The best part is that this attorney has been in my shoes before and knows how it feels to be cheated on. My friend said he's eager to help and won't nickel and dime me on fees. I guess this is one positive development in the midst of all the chaos. Moving on to the other side of the coin, my wife came clean and admitted to having an affair. She started with the whole, "it was just flirting" spiel, but I didn't buy it. Eventually, she confessed that it had turned physical, and that it had been going on for longer than I initially thought. She told me all the steamy details, and I honestly don't know how to feel about it. My head is spinning, and I can't focus on anything right now. The emotional roller coaster is just too much to handle. I had to sit down with my wife and told her it was best for her to stay with her mom for now. I couldn't handle being around her anymore. I needed space, and so did our kids. They deserved some normalcy, so I would take care of them. My attorney was working his magic and told me that staying in the house was a big advantage in this situation. I had made up my mind that our marriage was over, but I kept it to myself. She'll find out soon enough when the papers are served. My mind is a mess. The thought of my wife with this guy is always on replay. I try to stay focused on coaching professional and semi-professional fighters in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but my mind often wanders. The physical exertion of my job helps clear my head a little, but it's not a permanent fix. My kids have been my saving grace, and I pour all my attention and affection into them. Outside of BJJ and my children, I love to learn and read about new topics. However, I can't even concentrate on a paragraph without losing my train of thought. The text that referred to me as a stupid animal made me wonder what else they said about me. It's like I'm trapped in a nightmare, and I can't seem to shake it off. I used to be a happy-go-lucky person, but that version of me feels like a distant memory. And as the news of my situation spread, many people have come forward to offer their support in any way possible. It's comforting to know that I have people in my corner. Surprisingly, some of my friends' wives have offered to set me up with some beautiful women they know, some of whom seem to have taken an interest in me. But as tempting as it may be, I have no intention of dating until this is all behind me. And even then, it may be a while. Right now, my focus is solely on my kids and making sure they have some stability during this tough time. My heart is shattered, and my kids are bearing the brunt of the fallout. Being a single dad wasn't a role I ever envisioned for myself, but here I am. Meanwhile, my wife appears to be spiraling into a dark abyss. The guy she cheated on me with apparently bailed on her, and she's been drowning her sorrows in alcohol and going out with men she meets online. She's been reaching out to me, sobbing and begging me to take her back, saying she wants her old life back. It's tempting, but I know I can't let her back into my life. It seems she's turned her anger towards me once she learned how much she'll have to pay in monthly support. At least that means I can get some peace from her constant calls. My kids don't understand. Every second they aren't with me, I feel miserable. I am also lonely all the time. I haven't spent much time with friends and mostly just stay home. The girl that works at a coffee shop I frequent even asked me if everything was okay because I look sad. I guess I am not hiding it as well as I think. There are people I know that want to set me up with women they know, but I don't want to do it because I feel like I am branded as the guy whose wife cheated on him. It has been so long, I have no idea how to date. I had a few fighters do really well on a pretty public stage, and that has been the only spark I have felt in a long time. I really don't know what I will do next. At some point, I need to snap out of it and move on. I just haven't reached that level of motivation, though. I made a tough decision to take matters into my own hands and expose the other guy. With proof of the affair in my possession, I contacted his wife and presented the evidence to her. I couldn't just sit back and let him get away with it. At first, she didn't believe me, but later I heard that there were significant problems in their marriage. They may be still together, but their relationship is hanging by a thread. I'm struggling with intense feelings of anger and frustration over the situation. I have to admit, life is full of surprises. I never thought I would be in this situation, but here I am. On a more positive note, there is this girl that I met through some friends, and I can't stop thinking about her. She is gorgeous, but she is also younger than me by about 14 years. It seems like a pretty significant age gap, but I'm not sure if that matters. My confidence has taken a hit after everything that has happened, and I can't help but feel like she is way out of my league. But still, I can't stop thinking about her. I haven't asked her out yet, though. The last 6 months have been a roller coaster of emotions for me. I never thought I would experience such profound sadness. My usual happy-go-lucky personality has been replaced by a dark and melancholic one. After the terrible experience I went through, I decided to take some time for myself. During that time, the beautiful younger woman I was interested in got a long-term job assignment in Europe. Even though she was miles away, we kept in touch through technology. When her assignment was over, she returned, and we've been together ever since. She adores me and my kids, and has a heart of gold. Before we met, I was told about this incredible woman who looked like Wonder Woman and was the kindest person you could ever imagine. I thought it was too good to be true, but she's everything, and more. I believe that we're ready to take the next steps in our relationship soon. My ex-wife's life has taken a turn for the worse since our divorce. She started drinking heavily and hooking up with random guys she met online. She's also taken on more work, and it's taken a toll on her. The last time I saw her, she looked like she had aged 15 years. It was as if her life force had been drained from her. Her best friend told me that she's become a miserable person to be around. I still can't understand how someone who seemed to have everything under control could spiral into such a dark place. Her friend also confided in me that my ex-wife never expected me to leave her after the affair. I believe that she thought she had control over me because of her high income. It's sad to see the consequences of her actions, but I hope she finds peace for the sake of our kids. Life is pretty good now, despite the ongoing pandemic struggles. Looking back, I'm so glad I didn't drag out my first marriage. Ending it was a tough call, but it was the right one. After that, it was just one step in front of the other. Every day I pushed a little further, even though it felt like I was wading through quicksand. I know now that when you're in that situation, you have to think long term. You might feel like the world is ending, but there's always hope. The key is to keep moving forward, no matter how hard it gets. And trust me, it gets pretty damn hard. But every day, try to do something that adds to your skill set. Not just motivational, self-help stuff, but real skills. For me, I started making short films of my fighters and got into videography and editing. It's been a fun hobby, and I've learned a lot. I also read more books than ever before, trying to learn about all sorts of topics. Small things like these add up over time. You just have to keep at it and be patient with yourself.